What's going on, everybody? Good morning and happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday, peeps. How y'all doing on this October 15th? DK show up on the air on your radio dials, 105.1 FM and 790 AM. Also available online at sportstalk1051.com. You can stream it up over there. Get your Google and Alexa home devices, smart speakers, all that good stuff. The app. Download it, take it on the go. Video streams are also up and rolling on YouTube and Facebook. Appreciate you making us a part of your start on this little chilly start to this Tuesday morning. If you are already up and at 'em, what do we got on a good old game plan for us this morning? We'll throw some football talk in there. It is an Analyze This Tuesday, so we'll chat a little green and gold. Matt LaFleur talked with media. Nothing too big yesterday. Nothing too big. Nothing really fully on out there. But talk a little green and gold here for a little analyze this Tuesday. But one thing that Matt LaFleur did kind of throw out there, we're going to talk a little bit about the kicking game, and obviously that's probably, let's be real, if we were to poll everybody for our main kind of grind my gears Tuesday, I'm sure a lot of Packers fans might throw the kicking situation into that. But we're gonna go Matt LaFleur yesterday. I'll just kind of say he was asked about Alex Hale, who was on the practice squad kicker, if you remember in the preseason and training camp, if he could potentially be ready to go out there and be ready to play if the Packers decide to do something else. And Matt LaFleur kind of said that, he pretty much said potentially he could be out there. This was according to Rob Demoski. Packers coach Matt LaFleur said Alex Hale, who is on the practice squad, would potentially be ready to play if they decide. But, quote, I wouldn't say that right now, no, when he was asked if they are considering a change. Kicking's kind of an issue for a lot of teams in the league, especially if you were watching last night's Monday Night Football game with the Jets over there too. But that wasn't the only thing that was wrong with the game last night's. There's a bunch of dirty laundry out there that with the color yellow and such. But hey, Aaron Rodgers, another Hail Mary right there before the half, in case you missed that. So pretty much the best Hail Mary thrower ever, right? But other things on the Packers stuff that we're going to talk a little bit about. I want to talk a little bit about Rashawn Gary's performance and Kenny Clark's performance. Two guys that we have talked a lot about and maybe frustrations about, but we're going to break down some of the numbers and how they performed outside of the box score from the game on Sunday. So we got that. We're going to talk lots of Badgers. We've got RJ Cardinal coming up in a couple of hours from now. We'll talk about the win against Rutgers, look ahead to Northwestern, what has changed within this offense. We're going to talk some hoops. We'll talk some Badger hockey on there too, because we're getting into that season. So a lot of Badger talk coming at you. Lots of Badger talk coming at you. So we'll hit that up in a couple hours from now, about 8:20, 8:25 this morning. I do want to talk a little Bucks. I know for some of you, maybe not the biggest NBA fans, or maybe not ready for some Bucks talk at this point. Season does start next week, regular season. Bucks had a preseason game last night against the Bulls, but there's a couple things I want to talk about with the Bucks here. And for one, I want to chat a little Chris Middleton. Now, Chris Middleton chatted with Eric Name from the Athletic, and we're going to go through some of his comments about the whole tag of injury prone and such, and what's Middleton's goals for this season and such. But overall, too, the makeup of this team and kind of where it's at right now, and so was listening, or actually, I was kind of reading some stuff yesterday about the Bucks, and listening to Doc Rivers and that, and they've made a couple of moves in free agency and such. And one of the thoughts, apparently, like if you kind of read between the lines and you listen to Doc Rivers yesterday or the other day, and he talked about kind of the makeup of their team, and he talked about essentially how they want to come out to every game and utilize their size and be kind of a, they're not going to be the most athletic team. They're not going to be a fast team, but they want to utilize their size. And I don't know if it's going to work. Maybe it'll work. I guess I just have ugly flashbacks to the playoff series against the Pacers, and when the Pacers used all their speed and young athleticism, and they just ran up and down the court. And I know it's just preseason, but if we go back to even the Lakers game, the Lakers preseason game, I mean, the Lakers a few times were able to get out in transition and run up and down the courts on the Bucks here. So, we went through last week some of the predictions from the general managers and such, and nobody's really picking the Bucks this year. I mean, it's Boston. You got a lot of Knicks love. Those are the top teams. You got some 76ers with Paul George. By the way, you want a fun nugget here too with Chris Middleton being kind of, with the label. A lot of Bucks fans would say this too, but with Chris Middleton being labeled injury prone. Excuse me, spit it out, Dan, for crying out loud. He's only played 2 fewer games than Joel Embiid, and he's played more games than Paul George in the since 2020, 2021. That's according to Justin Garcia, who does Bucks post game. So I mean, put it in that perspective there a little bit too. But we pay more attention to Middleton because of where he's at for our teams and that. But I want to throw a little Bucks chat in here, and if you're a Bucks fan and you're somebody who follows the team, pays attention to the team, I'm genuinely curious to hear what your thoughts are, what your analysis is on this team for this season. And do you like the kind of mindset that they're going to be going out there with kind of, it almost seems like they're, to maybe put it in a football sense, playing a little power basketball and kind of utilizing their size more at this point in time. So I guess I'm willing to see how it plays out. They're willing to be a stronger team, a bigger team, but they're not the most athletic, which still says a lot when you got a guy like Giannis on your team. But you look at the makeup of the lineup. You got Brook, you got Giannis, you got Middleton in there. Gary Trent Jr. is probably going to be in the backcourt with Dame. It's veterans, right? It's loaded up with veterans at this point. So, but we'll hit that up at some point this morning. It is a Grind My Gears Tuesday, and ASAP Used Auto Parts Grind My Gears Tuesday. So what do you got? All right. What do you got here? Let me know. Hit me up. 715-830-1912 with some texts on that Shoe Doctor's bullpen line with what is grinding your gears this morning, or what's been grinding your gears the past few weeks here. So we got that, and we had baseball playoffs continuing last night too. The Mets are able to pick up a win in La La Land to even up that series at 1 apiece. And we had the Yankees jumping out to a 5-2 victory over Cleveland to take game 1 in the ALCS. That we got games continuing tonight. Just one, Guardians taking on the Yankees. So that's your game plan. What else is on your mind? Hit me up with the text, all right? If there's something else on your mind that you want to throw out there, maybe, I'll throw out to the rest of everybody out there. I'm game. I'm open. Let me know, okay? Send it on over. But let's get things rolling here this morning on a Grind My Gears Tuesday, but also a a Analyze That Tuesday. Analyze This Tuesday. Talk a little green and gold, kind of going back to the game and putting our bow on the win over the Cardinals. I want to talk a couple different things there. I want to revisit Rashawn Gary and Kenny Clark and really take a look at how well they played. Maybe it didn't show up in the stat sheet, didn't show up in the box scores, but did they have kind of a sneaky good game going up against Kyler Murray and this Cardinals offense? And then we'll throw a little kicker talk into this equation too. Yeah, I know, touchy subject for a lot of people, and again, probably still the biggest grind my gear for a lot of Packers fans out there. So let's get at her, pitter patter. Let's get at her. Right, we'll take our first break, and then we'll get things rolling here this morning. We'll open it up talking some football and whatever else is on your mind here. All right, let me know. I want to hear from you this morning. Get your cells out. Start texting, all that good stuff. Okay, hit me up. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Don't forget to be hitting that subscribe button on your podcasting platforms, so your apps, like on your, if you got an iPhone, you got Apple Podcasts. If you got maybe an Android, maybe you listen to Spotify. Maybe if you have Apple, you're still on Spotify. But don't forget to look up Man Cave Podcast and hit that subscribe/follow button. Would really appreciate that if you could help out a brother over here, because the more subscribers, and if you got a few seconds, 5-star rating or a nice little review in Apple. That way, it helps the internet bots out there, and it kind of is like, oh, okay, more people subscribe to that. Let's gets the word out there a little bit more, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so if you can do that, that would be appreciated. We have multiple episodes sometimes per day up there. Our Inside the Training Room segments, our Outdoor Tidbits with our DNR warden, Mr. Jake Boakes. By the way, going to be working on a little get-together before rifle season next month. So deets maybe to come a little bit later on. But do that if you could for the Man Cave Podcast. Brought to you by our good friends from Hy-Vee and Toyson Ford. All right. I want to lead things off on this Tuesday morning with a little analyze this. Analyze this Tuesday morning. So as we start to put the final bow on this game against the Cardinals, because tomorrow's midweek adjustments and we're moving on and we're officially on to Houston. You know, we can put the Cardinals game in the rear view mirror and such. But there's two players from this Packers team that we've talked a little bit about, and not in a good way, the last few weeks, and kind of, you know, looking for them on the missing posters out there. Like, where's Rashawn Gary been, and where's Kenny Clark been? I mean, those are two of your top defensive players, contract wise, and what we thought, you know, money wise or play wise there too. But first few weeks of the season, kind of MIA, missing in action a little bit here. And you look at this game against the Cardinals, and again, the other day we mentioned it, no sacks, right? There was no sacks in this game for the Packers. In fact, there was only 2 quarterback hits against Kyler Murray. So not a lot. Not a lot. But let's look outside of that box score. Let's look a little bit deeper, because I think it's fair to say this actually might have been Rashawn Gary's best game, or one of his best games this season. It's easily towards the top. And before, dude didn't have any sacks. He had 3 total tackles, one of them solo. How is that one of his best games? Well, if we use one of the tools in the toolbox, let's take a look at some of the Pro Football Focus grades on this thing. Now, your top 5 defensive players, according to Pro Football Focus, again, it's not the tell-all. I'm not a believer that that's the tell-all. I'm a believer that it's a part of that mixture of tools in your handy-dandy toolbox there. But when you look at the top 5, a lot of it makes sense. Sometimes it doesn't make sense when we look at some of these games. But in this case, Evan Williams was the highest-rated defensive player. I don't think you're going to have too many Packers fans argue against that with the way Evan Williams played. He had the highest grade in tackling, and he had one of the highest grades coverage. Overall, 93.3. You're talking that's elite, okay? Carl Brooks was second, 93. Carl Brooks, sneaky good game. Edgerrin Cooper was at number 4, another rookie. Jair Alexander at number 5. Who was number 3? Because I bypassed him. It was Rashawn Gary. Rashawn Gary finished with an 81.7 overall grade. But let's break it down a little bit more. Rashawn Gary was the lone Packer player, or excuse me, one of the lone Packer player to get a quarterback hit. Just one quarterback hit on Kyler Murray in that game. Just one, and it was Rashawn Gary. However, Rashawn Gary, when you dig a little bit deeper, when you look at it a little bit deeper, he also had a few pressures into this thing. Okay. He had 3 total pressures. He had that quarterback hit. That's the pass rushing side of it. But he actually also had, according again to Pro Football Focus, the highest run defensive grade. Of all the defensive players, Rashawn Gary had the highest run defensive grade at a 76.6. Next up, you're looking at Edgerrin Cooper, who had a 71.5, and then Xavier McKinney had a 70.7. So not only did Rashawn Gary lead the team in pressures and have the lone quarterback hit, he had the highest graded run defense in that thing. And it goes more than just, well, how does he have the highest run grade if he had 1 solo tackle and three total tackles there? This is where I give credit to Pro Football Focus. Because I've told this story before. It was like, oh gosh, 10, maybe a little over 10 years ago, I tried to apply. Well, I did apply to be one of those people for Pro Football Focus where you watch every single snap and you have to analyze or analog and watch every position and what they do and how they go about it. You're essentially a scout there. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of time in there. I just couldn't do it. There's not enough hours in a day. It essentially was a part-time, but it essentially was a full-time thing. But they look at every little thing. They don't just look at, did he tackle the running back in that situation? How did he set the edge? Did he change the direction of the runner and such? I mean, the littlest of things. They always sometimes work out where their grades are like they kind of match the eye test. No, not at all. Not all the time. It doesn't. But this is where I'll give it a little bit of credit here too, because they dig deeper. And I think when you start to like, okay, because when I was looking at this last night, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I remember a couple plays where, Gary really did a nice job of setting the edge, or he did, really nice job of trailing, just there's different parts, like different plays and all that. And I started watching it again last night. I'm like, there it is. Boom. And you kind of watch some of those highlights and you start to rewatch some of the film there. And Rashawn Gary, I think, and I think it was actually C-Bomb yesterday, so I don't want to sell him short. But I think it was C-Bomb yesterday too that kind of even mentions Rashawn Gary and the quiet game that he had, like a quiet good game. Quietly had a really good game. And when you rewatch it and when you look at the grades and you kind of look at all the stuff, Rashawn Gary, yeah. The dude had a solid game. Now, he's obviously, if we're looking at overall, we're looking at sack numbers because that's what he gets paid to do. Well, that's a big reason why he's getting paid a lot of money. And that's what a lot of us general fans tend to look at as like sack numbers. And I know there's also that stat that happened to come out late last week, the number that, Rashawn Gary is a top 5 player that gets chipped by a running back or a tight end. Right? It's that when he goes off goes after the quarterback, the running back will go over there and kind of give him a little shoulder chip, or a tight end will give him a little shoulder chip to get him off of his line of path. Could throw that in there, but other dudes who are also in there. I mean, guys like T.J. Watt and that, and they still, no, that doesn't really necessarily slow them down. But for all, I guess we're to kind of bring it all back in. The reason I'm bringing up what Rashawn Gary did is because, let's face it, we were pretty darn critical of him. We were pretty darn critical of him, and I think rightfully so for the last few weeks. But he had a solid game against the Cardinals. Now, Kenny Clark is such an I don't know if interesting is the word I want to use in this. Perplexing type of player so far this season. Because when you look at Kenny Clark, and Pro Football Focus was not too kind of Kenny Clark in their grades. In fact, he had the second lowest defensive grade in this thing And this is, again, when you look at some of the numbers out there, you're looking at, okay, Kenny Clark. What did he do in this game if you're just looking at it from a box score perspective? One total tackle. He had one total tackle. Now, Kenny Clark, he did have 2 pressures and a fumble recovery. But he also, if you rewatch it, he missed a couple tackles, especially in the run game. And I'm trying to, like, okay, what's going on with Kenny Clark? Because I'm rewatching some of this last night. What is going on with Kenny Clark? Dude got the new contract, and we're all thinking, okay, 4-3 defense. This guy's gonna thrive, and maybe. And I was one of them. I'm raising my hand right now. I was one of them. I'm like, okay, guy has been kind of overlooked, underrated for a lot of years. More people are gonna know who Kenny Clark is, and no, he's MIA right now. He's MIA, and part of it, and you see it though too. Like Kenny Clark, there's every game. There's a couple of plays where it's like Kenny Clark is so quick in that backfield. He's still got the speed in that, and yes, he still gets double teamed. And it happened again in the Cardinals where he's so quick in the backfield, but it's right past the running back, and then there you go. There's a lane there. And I go back to Jeff Hafley's mindset, or what he said about his defensive linemen, what he wants them to do at the beginning of the season. And that's, be aggressive. He wants them pressuring. He wants them going after the quarterback, right? Not necessarily kind of just filling lanes and having the linebackers do the work. He wants a defensive line that's putting pressure and aggressive. And you kind of have to wonder, is that what is kind of affecting Kenny Clark's play right now? Because you look at, again, there's a couple plays each game where he's so quick off the ball and he's in the backfield right away. I think he's just being more aggressive this year than in the years prior. And that, in turn, is hurting his running grade here a little bit, hurting his running defense, because he's trying to be more aggressive. And I don't know, it just seems like every time that he's in that backfield so quick, where he's beating that one-on-one, it's a running play, and then it just opens up a little bit of a hole over there. But think about it, right? I mean, go in your minds here a little bit. We could think about maybe a play or two every game where it's like, dude, Kenny Clark was dominated that one-on-one on that bull rush. He got there quick. Didn't really amount to anything. And you kind of have to go back and wonder, okay, is it because just being a little bit more aggressive instead of filling up those lanes, clogging up those lanes, trying to get after the quarterback, trying to get back in the backfield there? Maybe that's part of it. Because you look at some of these defensive linemen outside of Carl Brooks, just in this past game. I mean, Carl Brooks had the second highest defensive grade on Pro Football Focus, but you look at the others. Lucas Van Ness had the worst. Kenny Clark had the second worst. Preston Smith had the third worst. Colby Wooden had the 12th. Was 12th. TJ Slayton was 13th. Okay, those are your down linemen. Those are your defensive linemen. And when you look at their pressures in that, they're not great grades. They're not. So that's still kind of a little bit of I think, something that Hafley and this defense has to continue to try to figure out. And again, it could just be, and this is maybe just kind of overreacting to it a little bit here, but and maybe this should actually be a little bit of a credit to Hafley, because sure seems like he's got different game plans each week going up against these different quarterbacks, where at times throughout the years it felt like, why aren't we adjusting to the offenses that we're playing? and we kind of just keep doing the same thing, and we kind of keep getting burned the same way, right? I mean, it was incredibly frustrating. But you look at it, and you look at the teams that they've kind of played, and outside of really Minnesota, their defense played to the weaknesses of the opposing offenses, or they really tried to take away the main strength, I should say, from their opposing offenses. Again, how many times have we talked about it? The mobile quarterbacks. They didn't let Jalen Hurts run all over them. They didn't let Anthony Richardson run all over, and they didn't let him, kind of utilize that big arm, because in week one, his touchdown pass against the Texans, I mean, he had a couple big plays. He's a mobile quarterback, but he's got a huge arm. Green Bay took that away. Tennessee, we were like, okay, this is a day to get after Will Levis, to rack up those sack numbers, because he's susceptible to that. They had 8 sacks. Arizona again. You're trying to limit Kyler Murray's running ability. They did that. So to me, going into this Houston game, I'm fascinated a little bit to see what Jeff Hafley is going to do game plan wise against CJ Stroud. And you got Joe Mixon and Diggs is over there. Yes, they don't have Nico Collins that they have to worry about. But this is where I give a little bit of a tip of the cap to Hafley, because it sure seems like he's coming in with different game plans solely based off of the teams that they're going up against, which may sound like, well, duh, that's what they're supposed to do. It really felt like, Joe Barry and such, they weren't doing that. I mean, how many times did we talk about like not putting players in a position to succeed, and trying to figure out, or you're trying to put a square peg into a round hole and all that. And it was insanely frustrating. And as of right now, in the first 6 weeks, has it been top 5 defense worthy or dominant? No. But I think the arrow's trending upward for a lot of Packers fans out there, saying, okay, kind of like where it's going. Might have been a little bit of a downer after the first week, but I think right now, for the most part, right, it's trending upward. Do you feel good? Do you feel confident? I know we asked yesterday, do you feel confident, or where's your percentage if they can stop an offense from scoring, to kind of close out a game? Still kind of iffy out there. It's just 6 weeks in. But I think now you're starting to see a defense settling in here a little bit. You're seeing Hafley in this defensive group finding the players they want in certain packages. Evan Williams, I think, is you're going to see a whole lot more of Evan Williams in the back end. You're going to see a whole lot more of Bullard playing some nickel corner. You're going to see a whole lot more of Keyshawn Nixon playing on the outside out there with Jair. They really love the way that Bullard has been playing. You're going to see more mixing and matching in this thing. Take a look at the snap counts just to kind of give you an idea on this. Defensively, 3 players played 100% of the snaps. Okay. Xavier McKinney, no surprise. Quay Walker, probably not a big surprise. And Keyshawn Nixon. Keyshawn Nixon played 100% of the snaps on defense. Then it was Javon Bullard next at 93, Jair 79. You want to know where Eric Stokes was? Eric Stokes, 16 snaps, 28% of the snaps. That's it. Carrington Valentine didn't play a snap on defense. We're still seeing Hafley and the secondary trying to mix and match and put out different dudes out there. It wasn't that long ago. Carrington Valentine was starting it. Eric Stokes was starting it. All healthy right now, though. It sure seems like the lineup that's going to be out there is going to be, if we do a nickel, a base nickel, we'll call it, it's going to be Evan Williams. It's going to be Xavier McKinney. In the back end, it's going to be Javon Bullard playing a little bit of that nickel role, which I don't mind him doing that because I want Javon Bullard closer to the line of scrimmage. And then Jair and Keyshawn on the outside. I think maybe that's one of the more surprising things that we've been seeing here a little bit is Keyshawn Nixon getting more opportunities on the defensive side. And I mean, he wasn't straight up playing on the outside either. He was kind of all over the field. But they're mixing and matching their corners and their secondaries because they've got options out there too. But at this point in time, play-wise, it's fair. The proof's in the numbers right now. Bullard, Keyshawn, and Williams are outplaying the veterans of Eric Stokes and I guess, Carrington Valentine in that second year. But right now, it sure seems like Eric Stokes, I know his contract's going to be coming up here in a little bit, but man, kind of on the outside looking in at this point. That's kind of what's really stood out to me. One of the many things that's really stood out to me on this defensive side is how Hafley, and remember, Hafley's got the defensive backs background. He's a secondary defensive backs coach by trade. And we're seeing him really mixing up some stuff in the secondary, really changing some things up, putting different guys. And then I think maybe we're getting to that point where we're starting to settle in on some rotations and such, especially in the secondary. Cooper, I mean, and the thing is, too, Edgerrin Cooper, a rookie who missed some time in training camp and preseason, too. He had the same amount of snaps as Rashawn Gary on the defensive side. So we're starting to see him get into that game shape here, too, and we're starting to see him get more opportunities. For me, Edgerrin Cooper is the most natural linebacker on this team right now. The more snaps he's out there on the defensive side, the better this team is. But look, we're talking 3 rookies on this defense. 3 rookies on this defense right now that are, dare we say, pivotal players already 6 weeks in. Pivotal might be a little bit of a strong word, but important, crucial. Talking Williams, talking Bullard, talking Cooper. I mean, those guys, they've been coming in and they've been playing with their hair on fire, which is another phrase that Hafley has wanted to hear from wanted to see from his defense. Dudes coming out and playing with their hair on fire. Those 3 rookies have been doing exactly that. And you got to get a ton of props to them. Got to get a ton of props to Hafley and that defensive unit too. Putting players in a position to succeed. Putting players in a spot where, to quote the late Kevin Green, affect games. Joe Barry didn't do a good enough job of doing that. He didn't put a lot of his players in a position that best suited them, that in turn best suited the defense overall. We are seeing that so far, especially when it comes to these rookies, especially when it comes to these younger guys. It almost feels like, too, it's like just because you're a first rounder, just because, you're kind of termed as a outside corner, best guys go out there in that on that 11-man defense. The best players are going to go out there. The best players at certain positions. Bullard, you're better at playing nickel or closer to the line of scrimmage. You're going to play there. Keyshawn, you're better on the outside. You're going over there. Evan, get back there with Xavier. Stokes, you're not getting the job done, even though you're a former first rounder. You're not getting the job done. You're not playing. Hafley's putting his guys in a position to succeed. and he's got some accountability right now too. That's how I feel. All right, let's take a quick break, and we'll wrap up the first hour here this morning. We'll be back in just a couple minutes here. It's an ASAP Used Auto Parts Grind My Gears Tuesday. Get those texts in. What's grinding your gears here this morning? I'll get mine coming up just past 7 o'clock. But with that, it's also that time of year too where, the temperatures are getting a little bit colder. Maybe thinking winter is coming up here. Not too far away, so maybe get your vehicle ready to prepare for another Wisconsin winter, especially those roads, snow-covered roads. Maybe it's time to get some new tires. Hit up our good friends at ASAP Used Auto Parts in Eau Claire if you're looking to get some new tires, or maybe it's time to get that oil change too. If you're looking up in that left corner and you see that sticker that says, well, your due date was back in June, or you're like 2,000 miles past your latest oil change, it's time to get in, and ASAP Used Auto Parts can do that too. Not only can they help you save on some high-quality used auto parts, but they can get your oil changed up, get you ready to hit the road, and get you with some new treads and get you some new tires on your vehicle as well. I want to throw this question out for the next hour, and this kind of relates to the Eagles and Nick Sirianni. So I'm sure you probably Nick Sirianni kind of had an issue with Eagles fans booing his team and such, and kind of was doing a little chit chat with the fans. He was yelling at some of the Eagles fans, and he apologized for that. And I want to throw this kind of question out there: what is proper stadium etiquette when you go to a football game? What are some of the do's and what are some of the don'ts when you as a fan go to a game? Are you, because I've heard people with different takes on this. Do you boo your team when they're playing bad and you're at the game? Do you boo them? I've heard people say you don't do that. Obviously, people do because we hear it, whether we're at the game or whether we're on TV. What are the do's and what are the don'ts in terms of stadium etiquette when you're at a game? As a fan, not as a coach or as a player, but you as a fan, when you go to a game, what are the do's and what are the don'ts? Do this standing up on 3rd and 4th down, just throwing out examples. Don't do this. Don't do the damn wave when your team's on offense. Could be football, could be basketball, could be baseball, whatever sport, hockey, whatever sport you decide. All right, I want some good ones. Okay, I want a list. I want a list so we can hit this up and go through this and see whether we agree with this list. We're going to make the ultimate do and don't stadium list, the Sports Talk 105.11. All right, you got a few minutes. Hit me up with your do's or your don'ts or your biggest bugaboos about going to a game. All right. Big Worm with a quick text here saying, I would like to see Nixon take over all responsibilities of special teams. Reed is too valuable to return punts. Don't want to see him get hurt. Yeah, they've, Nixon goes in there in the game against, this last week against Arizona after Reed got a little bit dinged up and he had a nice return. So I wonder if we're going to start to see that a little bit more, especially since teams are not kicking to Nixon on the kickoffs. I think you've got it. I was just talking about putting players in a position to succeed and putting players in a position to affect games. I think you got to put Nixon back there returning punts. If he is your best returner, I think Reed's talented, but at this point in time, I think I'd want him more on offense. I would agree with you, Big Worm. I think Nixon's got to go out there and be your primary returner, especially since teams are not kicking it off to him, especially since he's not involved in the return game. Try to get him involved. We know he's a threat at returning the ball. Get him back there returning punts. So, yeah, I would agree with you 100%, Big Worm. No question about it. No question about it. So, good point there. Be curious to see if we're going to see that coming up here a little bit more after Nixon's return against the Cardinals. Wasn't a touchdown return, but, got past the 50 and such. It's a field position game. You need a punter that can flip the field. You need a returner that can that can get you a big game, and you got a shorter field to work with if you're on the offensive side of things. So, all right, so we'll finish up with Morgs here this morning. Good morning.
Is that a new flannel?
It is not.
But you're busting out flannels. We're in flannel temps.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I like a good flannel.
Are you in flannel season officially now that these temps are like? Is that all you're gonna wear? You're just gonna open. There's gonna be a myriad of flannels. Is that?
I wish I had more.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you would add to your.
They're on my
flannel
Christmas
collection.
wish list.
Are flannels the midlife hoodie?
I still like
Because
a good hoodie.
I do too. Like in
Yeah.
high school, a good hoodie collection
Yeah.
reigns supreme. Like I
Yep.
still have some of
I'm
my old
still
high
a
school
hoodie.
hoodies.
I'm still a hoodie person.
Yeah, I would say hoodies too.
Got to wear flannel with a nice jacket.
Now, are you a booer if your team's doing bad? You're setting up these stadium rules and behavior for fans and stuff. Are you a guy that boos?
I'm not a booer.
I'm not either.
I'm not a
Even if the
booer.
team's really taking a dump, I'm like, you know what? It's still your team.
I'm pretty quiet when I actually go to a game, to be honest with you.
So let's just split hairs a little bit here.
Yeah.
Do you think that your list or your suggestions, your recommendation for fan behavior in the stands professionally is different than like if you're watching your kids play?
Yes. 100%,
Okay.
yeah.
Now, what would be the biggest differentiation between the two for
First
you?
of all, no booing kids.
Thank you.
Yeah. No doing that.
So then why do we see so much behavior that is actually worse at the kid level than I've seen next to somebody at Lambeau?
Because I think those parents are trying to live through their kids' glory right now because their glory was not that great, or they're trying to extend it.
If you have ever gotten ejected from a child's game,
Yeah.
you should run immediately to the nearest self-reflection corner and do a little soul searching.
I got ejected from a slow pitch softball game.
Do tell. Do tell.
I did. It wasn't a strike. The ball was flat, and I made a comment to the ump, and he threw me out. So,
Yeah, well, umps could do that.
Milan. He was getting antagonized by the team that was sitting by and home.
Of course.
Because they started chanting, throw him out, and then he threw me out. So,
okay. Well, do you feel good about that?
I may have tossed the bat against the fence too.
You may have.
I may have.
Now, do you feel like there's been growth since that, or do you stand by it?
There's been growth.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was
I
when
can
you
laugh
were
about it now, but yeah, it was
we
pretty
can
dumb.
all laugh about it now.
It was pretty dumb.
Yeah, I've been to many softball games and I've never gotten ejected. I can tell you that.
Yeah, it was slow pitch beer league tournament. Yep. Good old Milan over there.
But you know what? You still have the beer trophy here, loud and proud in the studio.
I do.
So eject though you may have been, who really gets the last laugh here? As I'm looking at cans 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12 cans high on a trophy that's pretty much 5 feet tall. Yeah. I think you win.
I do. I usually do. So, all right. Thanks, Morgs.
Yeah, you're out of here, Casper.
Get those texts coming. We'll be back after these news updates. Second hour kicks off right now on this Tuesday morning. If you're up and at it, hopefully you're all off to just an absolutely fantastic start. Big thanks for tuning in here for a little bit this morning. Coming up next hour, we're going to talk some Badgers with Mr. RJ Cardinal. Plenty to talk about with the Badgers. Another blowout win for Bucky in football. They've got Northwestern coming up here. So we'll take a look at that game. We'll talk a little hoops. We'll talk a little hockey with RJ Cardinal. That's coming up at about 8:20 this morning. It is an ASAP Used Auto Parts Grind My Gears Tuesday. What's grinding your gears? Let us know. Hit us up with a text on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line at 715-830-1912 or comment on the video streams or hit us up on the socials. We're looking for the do's and the don'ts as a fan when you go to, let's say like professional, or maybe I guess we could throw in like Division I college over there too. But the do's and don'ts, stadium etiquette when you go there as a fan. Reason I bring this up is the whole Eagles situation. Eagles fans, and we know Philly fans, they can get a little rambunctious at times, but they were booing their players. Nick Sirianni doing a little trash talking to him afterwards. He apologized in that. But what's the etiquette? What's the do's and the don'ts when you go to a game as a fan? What are some of your bugaboos? All that stuff. I want to create a list. I want to create the official morning show list, sports talk list, the do's and the don'ts when you go to a game. All right, hit me up, text me on over. We got a couple of them right now. C-Bomb had said a little bit earlier, do not do the blanking wave when your team is on offense. Everybody write that down. I will co-sign that. I have no idea why that's still a thing. Also, when the game is tight, do not tell the people in front of you to sit down. You're at the game, get on your feet and do your job. Nobody should leave with a normal voice. Browner, grind my gears and stadium etiquette. Stop booing the opposing pitcher when he throws over to first base. It's part of the game to keep them close, to throw them out on a steal attempt, or to get a double play. Have a terrific Tuesday. You too, man. I would agree with that one too, especially since, now they've changed it to where they can only do it a couple times, right? The disengagements and such. So I've got no problem with it. I mean, okay, back in the day when they would maybe do it 5 times, okay, whatever. But especially now when there's a limit to it, that's not that big of a deal anymore, right? Yet I would agree with that one too. I agree with that one too. That's a good one, Brown. Foster Jim, no ejections for exceeding the home run limit. Come on, man. I never had to worry about that. We'll just leave it at that. Okay. I never had to worry about that one. Good one though. All right, keep those coming. Okay. We'll get back to them a little bit more. Well, Evans tweeted at me, offense quiet, defense loud. Going a little generic there, but yep, I would co-sign with that as well. I'm going to do my grind my gears. It's a Tuesday grind my gears brought to you by ASAP Used Auto Parts. And I want to go to last night's game with the Jets falling to the Buffalo Bills. It was a flag fest throughout that entire game. I mean, all over the place. It was just flag here, flag there, flag here, flag there. But there was one flag in particular that is grinding my gears. And it was the roughing the passer call on Aaron Rodgers. And to Rodgers' credit, after the game, he even said it wasn't roughing the passer. He even said it wasn't roughing the passer. And I'm sure a lot of you probably either watched it live or you've seen the clip and that. And I mean, there was a lot of people coming out of the woodwork and posting about it on Twitter and social media. But Rodgers, to his credit after the game, said, quote, "It seemed a little ridiculous. Some of the calls that seemed really bad, including the roughing the passer on me. That's not roughing the passer. You might as well play Sarcastaball," reference to South Park, "if we're going to call those things. And I thought the one on Kinlaw wasn't roughing the passer either." So first of all, I got to tip my cap and acknowledge Rodgers for saying, no, that wasn't roughing the passers. And And he's kind of done that before in the past. Where I remember that it was a few years ago where he said, when he was talked about roughing the passers and such, and he kind of made and I'm paraphrasing here, but he kind of made a comment about, we being the quarterbacks, kind of like to show that we're, football players and a little tough there too. And what year was that? Was that 2017, 16, 17 when it was like really bad? Like Clay Matthews kept getting flagged for it at the beginning of the year. It was like Minnesota and then it was Washington. But a lot of times you don't hear a quarterback who is the benefactor from calls like that going out in his post-game presser and say, no, that wasn't. That wasn't roughing the passer. So I got to give him credit. But what grinds my gears are these calls that are clearly, obviously not roughing the passer. Now, I understand it's happening full speed. It's happening, and where you got to make a decision in a split second. I understand that. But I guess the other part of me, though, too, is if we're going to have replay and we're going to have reviews assisted by New York, like we did, again, in the game last night on Garrett Wilson's touchdown catch at the beginning of the game. It was ruled not a touchdown catch. But instead of it being challenged, you heard the ref go on the mic, instant replay assistance, review, whatever, has changed the call with the assistance of the replay, has changed call to a touchdown. Why can't we do that for stuff like this? Why can't we do that for decisions or for calls that could really affect games or for big calls like that? I get it. Then you're potentially maybe opening up the door to pass interferences and that. But I mean, for crying out loud, if we can make a change or a decision within a few seconds, let's do it. Let's do it. Especially when it's like roughing the passer was, which was a clear sack on the game last night. And you had the quarterback saying it wasn't even that. We got to be better at this. I get trying to be safe, and I'm fully on board with that. And you don't want guys getting unnecessarily hurt. And obviously, you don't want some of those defensive ends, pass rushers, linebackers driving guys in. I mean, long gone are the days of the 80s, 70s, 60s when you could get away with pretty much doing anything. That's not happening anymore. Once in a while, yes, you'll have some of those plays that should absolutely be called roughing the passer, but stuff like that from last night, I mean, come on. That was ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And if we have the ability to help out officials, if we are doing that in different areas for different plays, why don't we just do it for everything then? Especially if it just takes a few seconds. I mean, how quick are we seeing replay on the TV? If we're seeing it that quick, they're seeing it as quick or maybe even just a little bit quicker. If we have that ability and we're doing it with other decisions on the field, come on. It would solve a lot of the problems, and it would solve a lot of the disgruntled and players and coaches commenting about officiating after the game, because Rodgers is going to get fined. I know it's Rodgers. He probably has that cash in his couch cushions or whatever in his wallet, and he'll be able to pay it all off and all that. But you don't want players and you don't want coaches criticizing your officials and criticizing how they call the game. Make it easier on the officials. Help them out a little bit. And then they wouldn't be doing that. Nah, that's my grind my gears for this Tuesday. So, stadium etiquette, stadium rules. What are your do's? What are your don'ts? I want to hear from you, okay? Hit me up with the texts. This is based off of a little bit from Sirianni, and this is something I've thought about doing for a while, but now with Nick Sirianni, the Eagles coach, kind of trash talking to fans who were booing and such, and he apologized in that. As a fan, if you go to a game And so second time I've mentioned his name, C-Bomb, if you're listening, do you boo your team? When you go to a Packer game, as passionate as you are for your team, when you go to a Packer game at Lambeau Field and they're playing bad, are you booing them? Should fans boo their teams if they're playing bad in their stadium? Should they do that? Yay or nay? Is that a do or is that a don't? What else? What are the other do's and don'ts when you go to a game? Let's make that list. I know there's a lot more out there, okay? I'm going to throw one out there. I've seen this too many times. This is a little bit more back in the day. Not as much now. But I've seen it multiple times. Don't bring something to read to a game. I've seen people bring in newspapers to read. Not to sit on, not to do that, to read. And it wasn't something that they just purchased from the gift shop or the pro shop. Don't bring something to read to a game. Okay? You can do that at home. You can do that elsewhere. You can do that in a car while you wait an hour to try to get out of the parking lot. You don't need to bring something to read to a game. No. No. Don't do that. So that's another one out there. What else do you got? Okay. Let me know. Hit me up with text 715-830-1912. All right, quick break. I want to throw a little Bucks talk coming up here, though, too. And if you are a Bucks fan, I know you're probably not thinking basketball season. You're probably not thinking the NBA and all that. But the regular season does tip off next week. Bucks had their second to last preseason game last night against the Bulls. But there's a really good piece by Eric Nehm at The Athletic who covers the Bucks. And he had a sit down with Chris Middleton. And Chris Middleton has obviously been a guy that has been under a lot of scrutiny. Speaking of fans and how they kind of scrutinize or criticize their team and such, Chris Middleton has been a guy that has been scrutinized for a while. Even when he was healthy in his play. He's not a real number two. They need a different number two. Getting paid too much. Then it was the injuries. So I want to talk a little bit about Chris Middleton because some good stuff here from Eric Nehm. And some other stuff with the Bucks. We kind of have, I think, what Doc Rivers wants this identity for this team to be. And I'll be honest with you, I hope it works. I'm unsure about it. I'll explain that coming up here in just a little bit too. So, really quick, C-Bomb said, I have never booed players or the team as a whole. But boy, did I complain at Joe Barry last year. But actually booing, no, I don't do that. I may have offended parents that had children nearby when I was cussing out Joe Barry last season. All right. Hey, speaking of which, since C-Bomb's listening right now, we're throwing out a challenge. So we want to try to get triple-digit subscribers to the Man Cave podcast. Okay, I'm talking like following the podcast on Apple or Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcast. One of those apps. You click that follow or subscribe. I hate using the word subscribe because subscribe sounds like you got to pay. You don't. Okay, so you hit that. We get to triple digits here. All right. Click the follow or subscribe, screenshot it, send it to me. If we get triple digits here, we're gonna do a challenge for C-Bomb. C-Bomb's gonna do something of our picking. How about that? Within reason. We're gonna have a little fun with this. But hit me up with a screenshot as soon as you subscribe or follow, whether it's on Apple, whether it's on Spotify. Okay. But follow, subscribe. We're gonna try to get new subscribers, new followers, triple digits here. And we're going to put C-Bomb through a challenge here. All right. Got to do it. All right. Quick break. Keep those texts coming, though, okay? Stadium etiquette, do's and don'ts, all that good stuff. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Youth teams, sports teams, listen up. If you're looking for some new jerseys, you're looking for some new uniforms, or maybe you want to raise some funds by selling some of your merchandise, Residence Branding Company in Altoona can help you out. All right. Just visit their website, residencebrandingcompany.com, and they can hook you up with some new jerseys this upcoming season or some maybe for next year. You're looking to upgrade your uniforms and, maybe you just said maybe it's time. Maybe you still got something that's been for going around for about 20 years. Maybe you need a new design, something you want to kind of stand out from the competition, get those kids looking good out there on the field. Residence Branding Company can help you that. They can also help you set up an online store so you can sell some merchandise for maybe raising some funds, or maybe you just want to sell some items for your fans over there too. So, but Residence Branding Company, that's the place to go to. The entire team there, whether it's Matt, Ben, Eric, Quinn, all those people over there, they're fantastic to work with. Fantastic to work with. So, all right. Keep those going here. Or what do we? Oh man. Okay, I got to minimize the texting here because we've got a lot coming in here, so gotta minimize it here a little bit. But um, I want to talk a little Bucks here, just really quick. I know maybe some of you are not in basketball mode or even Bucks mode at this point. We got a lot going on, baseball playoffs and college football and the NFL and that. But Chris Middleton, all right, Bucks fans, Chris Middleton. I want to chat a little bit about him and what are your expectations for Middleton this year? Because Middleton has his own expectations for this season. And there's a great article from Eric Name at The Athletic. If you have a subscription, go check it out. But Eric Name was able to sit down and chat about or chat with Chris Middleton and kind of get where his mindset is and talk about the injury prone label that has kind of surrounded him throughout the last couple of years here. And Chris Middleton has been a guy the last few years, even before he was injury prone, even if he was before he started to get hurt, there was the question. He's not a number two. He's getting paid too much. He's getting paid too much, and um, Bucks should move on from him and get an upgrade over there. And then he starts to get hurt, and it just kind of added a little bit more fuel to the fire for Bucks fans who kind of had a problem or weren't really big believers in Chris Middleton, right? So I feel like Chris Middleton's always been a guy that has been under the big microscope for Bucks fans and was always kind of on thin ice. And he had fantastic games, fantastic stretches. I'm a believer that Bucks don't win the finals without Chris Middleton, on the ball club and such. But there's always been something with Middleton that has irked or displeased Bucks fans over the years, whether it was because of his inconsistent play, maybe offensively, maybe not being, a big time number two, or maybe it's because of the last couple of years, the injuries surrounding Chris Middleton. Middleton said having quote having a successful season out there is playing damn near 82 games. He told The Athletic. Understanding that there may be a couple games where you can't go because you got knee to the thigh or something like a bad ankle sprain, those types of things, you miss 1 or 2 games, but not playing only 60 games, anything below 70, 75 games. No, I do not consider that a successful season for me. That's from Chris Middleton. Last year, he only played in 55 games. Was, according to The Athletic, on pace to appear in 68 before spraining his ankle going up against that Chris Durant game. Remember that's back there. But so Middleton's got this goal of, he wants to play 70, 75 games. Whether that happens, remember last year too, they were kind of easing him on in. He was on a minutes restriction and such. And this offseason, again, he had surgery on both of his ankles. We haven't seen him in the preseason yet. Hopefully, we'll see him in the final preseason game. That's kind of the thought process from Doc Rivers, is that hopefully we'll see him in that final preseason game against the Mavericks before the regular season starts. But kind of still up in the air at this point. How crucial is Chris Middleton to the success of this ball club this year? A team that they got talent, but not getting a lot of attention, a lot of credit, a lot of, I guess, hype. We did the GM survey last week. Bucks, nobody picked them to win the game or to win the championship. You could say whether they're flying under the radar or maybe just not getting the respect that they deserve. But how can that all change based off of what the Bucks can get from Chris Middleton this year? Doc Rivers said, quote, "We don't talk about Dame, Giannis, and Chris enough. We should talk about all three more, not just two of them," referring to Giannis and Damian Lillard. When we look at Chris Middleton's career, and you look at some of his career numbers, and it was a few years ago when he was an all-star. He's actually a 3-time all-star in his career. But last year, in those 55 games, he played 27 minutes per game, actually, too. So he was getting up there. It's very similar, his numbers, 2022-23 season and 2023 to the 24 season. Points per game were the exact same. 15.1 points per game. His field goal percentage was actually nearly 6 percentage points higher than what it was in 2023. But let's say Chris Middleton is a guy that averages 15 to 18 a game this year. Would you deem that as a successful season for Middleton? Basketball Reference actually has his projection. I think this is a little high. I mean, if this is what you get from Chris Middleton, that's fantastic. But they have it at a 20.3. 20 points per game for Chris Middleton. I would take this stat line from Chris Middleton based off their projections per 36 minutes. 20.3 points per game, 6.7 assists per game, 6 rebounds per game. If I could get a 20, nearly 7, and a 6 from Chris Middleton, shooting 47% of the field based off this projection, I would take that and I would run with that any day of the week. If that's what I get from my number 3 guy on this team. You have to go back to 2021, 2022 when he averaged 20 points. I mean, you're talking about from 2017 to 2021, a guy that nearly averaged or did average 20 points per game. The lone season he didn't average 20 points per game. You got to go to 2018, 2019. He was actually selected as an all-star that year, but he had 18.3 points per game. Otherwise, 20.9, 20.4, 20.1. And on the surface, now we take that, but the criticism for Chris Middleton from those earlier years was, is that enough from a number 2 option for Giannis? And whenever Giannis was, on the court, but you needed somebody else to create, that's the other, I think, problem or issue Bucks fans had with Chris Middleton. Is he a guy that could create his own? Is he a guy that can beat somebody off the dribble and create his own shot? I'm cautiously optimistic this year for this Bucks team. One, I think they've got the whole coaching thing settled on, whether you're a believer in Doc Rivers or not. Last year was just weird. You had a first-time head coach. You had a veteran-heavy team. You traded for Dame really close to the start of the season, right before training camp. So, I mean, you had this veteran team that was all, it's championship or bust mindset. But then you had a first-time head coach and it just didn't mix. And then you bring in a new coach, a veteran coach for a long time there, and then you're trying to change stuff, but still win some games. I mean, you almost have to say last year was a wash. There's no excuses this year heading into this season when it starts next week with Giannis, with Dame, those being your top two guys. There's no excuse. I mean, it's still championship or bust. We can't come up with these, well, they made a coaching change, or, well, he got traded right before, so still trying to adjust to his team. You don't have that this year. But I think for this team to maybe, I guess at this point, surprise some of the doubters out there, because it's all about Boston, which I get, and it's all about the Knicks right now because they're the sexy team with what they did last year and now getting Karl-Anthony Towns and such. So, and it's New York. You got Philadelphia over there where they acquired Paul George. By the way, Chris Middleton has played more games than Paul George has since 2020, to put that in a little bit of perspective. But you got Joel Embiid, you got Paul George, you got Max Muncy with the 76ers, and it's the Philadelphia market, so they're getting attention. But I think for the Bucks to reach that potential, to reach their goals of what they want to get, Chris Middleton has to be that huge factor. He's got to be healthy. And when he's on, I mean, we saw it in the playoffs last year too. When he's got that mid-range jumper going, Chris Middleton's got a sweet mid-range jumper. I mean, it's poetic. When he's on and when he's got that thing going, he's a threat. And I don't think we got to see the full, true big three of Giannis, of Dame, and Middleton that we did last year. I don't think we got to see the full 100% true big three because Middleton was working his way back. Dame still adjusting. The coaching mess for the Bucks. No excuses, though, heading into this year. Middleton's going to get opportunities. Let's face it. If you're an opposing team, you're focused on Dame and you're focused on Giannis. Middleton is going to get opportunities. Can he stay healthy? Can he stay on that court? And can he take advantage of those opportunities? Because if he can get that mid-range game going down, that's where Middleton's really effective. I think Chris Middleton eventually is going to get, when we talk about Bucks legacy and Bucks lore, he's going to get his jersey retired by the Bucks. Whenever his career is done with, he's going to get his jersey retired. That number is going to be retired by Chris Middleton. And I think for a while, though, he will still be a debating point for Bucks fans in terms of his legacy. It'll be all over the place. Was he the perfect Robin for Giannis? Was he the best number 2 option out there? Then he got injury prone, and then he missed a bunch of games. His legacy, whenever it's all said and done, will still probably be debated years upon years. But I feel like that number 22 jersey is going to hang from the rafters at the Fiserv Forum when his career's said and done. But I want to see this year for Middleton. First of all, we want to see him healthy. We want to see him out on that court. But I think he's got a shot to be a really nice number 3 option. He's going to get those opportunities, whether it's Dame or Giannis driving to the lane and Middleton's just sitting on the wing on the side there. He's going to have those opportunities. Can he do that? I'm a little bit nervous about their defense. They got the size. But I'm still a little bit nervous about them playing transition defense and playing against teams like the Pacers that like to run up and down the court. I'm still worried about that. If they get into a half-court defense, if they get, set and all that, then, they can utilize their size. But that's where shot selection and making your buckets is going to matter huge, because if you miss down low, if Brook Lopez misses down low, if Giannis misses a little bunny hook or whatever, and that team likes to run and get out in transition, a lot of that size isn't going to get down there in time. That's my one concern right now with this Bucks team. All right, let me load up the texting here a little bit. Got Mike. Dan, I got two for you. Do not arrive at your seat at kickoff and then proceed to crawl in and out over people in your row every 15 to 20 minutes to go get a beer, a brat, hit the bathroom, go have a smoke, whatever. After a few times, your fellow fans will find no humor in this. Also, do not stand the entire game except for halftime. The dozen or so people who are sitting behind you also paid $155 per person to watch the game. Are not amused when they are screaming at you to sit down. Please be courteous and do so. If you feel you need to stand the entire game, please swap ticks with one of the people standing under the scoreboard in the south end zone. I'm sure that person would be eternally grateful and build a monument to you next to Lombardi and Lambeau outside of the atrium. Okay. John said a boo now and tells team to get in the gear. Don't like coaches, players waving for fans to cheer when playing back on their heels. Make a play and we'll cheer our butts off, whether at home or in the stands. So, John, you don't like it when Matt LaFleur's or the players on the sideline on third down or fourth down are telling you to get a little loud? You don't like that? Another texter says if someone pays for a ticket, let them read. I'd rather have someone reading and enjoying the atmosphere than standing the entire game yelling and spilling beer all over my kid. Unfortunately happens at Lambeau often. Don't read at Lambeau, for crying out loud. Go read at a library or read at home. I mean, yelling, you're going to go to a game, you have to yell. You have to yell if you're going to a game. You don't like the yelling? Stay at home. All right? Stay at home if you're going to yell. Or if you don't want the yelling. Why go to a game then? You got to cheer. That's the purpose of going to a game. Cheering. Apparently, this is apparently the other one though, the standing one. Interesting. I will say I disagree with the standing the whole game when it comes to Lambeau. I've had to do it and I didn't like it, but I had to. But if it's a December or January game and you literally can't fit in the seats on those bleacher seats because you're loaded up with layers and layers and layers of clothes, there is no room to sit. So you have to stand the whole time. So I will say there's instances where you have to because that just actually happened to me last year in a late season game where we couldn't sit. Nobody in the row could sit because everybody was so packed in there because you had your snowmobile suits on or your rolls on and there was no room. There was no room. All right, keep those coming. 715. Oh, wait. Read a book, good gravy. What has fandom become at the sacred Lambeau Field? I agree. All right. We'll take a quick break. Keep them coming, though. All right. Stadium etiquette, do's or don'ts. What do you got for me? Hit me up with a text, 715-830-1912.
$100 a year. When everyday prices are too high, he will make them even higher.
Kamala Harris, a better plan for lowering costs for a future we can afford. Paid for by FFPAC, ffpac.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. FFPAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
What makes Dairyland Seed soybeans special? More. The next generation of Dairyland Seed brand Enlist E3 soybeans offer the most advanced trait technology available, setting a new standard for weed control and yield performance in the upper Midwest. Backed by a network of local dealers and direct access to the industry's leading agronomists, you get more on-farm support to help you get the most out of every seed you plant. More intelligent soybeans with more insights and information. That's the Dairyland Seed difference. Meet our 2025 lineup at dairylandseedsoybeans.com.
Some call his show life-altering. Your personal takeaway may differ somewhat. The Dan Casper Show, weekday mornings from 6 to 9.
This deer season, if you have any luck in the woods and you're not sure where to take that deer to get in, to maybe get some venison bacon or some snack sticks or some jerky or summer sausage made, brats, look no further than Mike's Star Market on the west side of Eau Claire. You can check out their Facebook page for all the details, pricings, and options you can have made for made out of your deer. So if you're lucky enough to get a deer this year, but just not quite sure where to take it, make it easy on yourself. Mike's Star Market on the west side of Eau Claire. Let's take a quick phone call here this morning to one person that I have gone to a few games with, and definitely very animated when we go to games in a good way. But Mr. Seabaum this morning. Good morning, Seabaum. How you doing?
Good morning now, Capitano, my brother. Let me ask you a question. Is this an ASAP Auto Parts Grind My Gears Tuesday?
It is an ASAP Used Auto Parts Grind My Tuesday, guy. What do you got?
I got some grinding gears. Listen, you're giving us some messages from some Packers fans out there. What is fan short for, Dan?
Fanatics.
Fanatic. Exactly. So you go to a game as a fan, right? If you're talking about wanting somebody to read a book, or you're upset that the players are waving their towels trying to get the crowd into it, you're the problem. Don't go to the game, for crying out loud. I mean, I get not wanting people to be drunk idiots, spilling beer on you, cussing and swearing, which I've been guilty of, and I apologize to all of, but get off your butt and cheer for your team. And when they're on offense, that's when you can sit down and zip your mouth. Because it's the opposite at Lambeau sometimes. It drives me bat-s crazy is when people are on their feet screaming when we're on offense and doing the wave on offense. Oh, I'm feeling like an old curmudgeon the way I'm grinding my gears here, but we need fandom coaching, fandom teaching 101. We need to start a class, Dan.
You know what? That might not be a bad idea. You know what also kind of grinds my gears is like when your offense decides to go for it on fourth down, what do? What does the fans do when they decide to go? They start cheering and they start getting loud. It's like, I hate that. I hate that. Get quiet. I mean, I get it. You like the decision, but zip it. Be quiet, for crying out loud.
Absolutely. If it starts to a roar starts coming because they're going for it, you're excited. Yeah, give a quick cheer, but then zip it. Shut up. Let them get the play in. Let them get the cadence.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have a little bit of. You got to understand how the game is being played and what's going on. It blows my mind the way sometimes, and it's not just one or two people, because obviously there's 70,000 in there, and probably 40,000 of them are cheering when they shouldn't be and sitting when they shouldn't be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. And for everybody who wants people to sit down too, tell that person who's standing up trying to get the wave going to sit down so he doesn't get the wave going, he or she, because it's always that one or two people that do it at the most idiotic times during a game. And I don't know how they get all those people on board to do it, but it happens every single game. I know I'm going to see it on Sunday when I'm there. The wave when we're on offense. And it's going to grind my gears again.
I concur, Dan. The wave, that's another thing that kind of gets me. You do it at a baseball game when there's boring downtime. At an NFL game, if you're doing you're not paying attention to the game if you're trying to get the wave going.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I'm not a big fan of the wave. Don't get it, whatever. But yeah, I mean, if you're at the game, go there, scream, cheer for your team when they're on defense, have fun, have a couple beers. Don't be sitting there and don't be that person complaining that somebody in front of you is up and cheering. Now,
Mhm.
if they're standing the whole game, that's different. Ask them kindly to sit down, a little bit. But yeah, I mean, seriously, Dan, we should have like a Zoom class for Fandom 101.
I agree, and I'll say this one thing too. I saw this. It was during a preseason game, so I don't know if it's like this for every game, but we went to a game a couple of years ago, and we had tickets next to the tunnel. But you had all these people who weren't sitting in that area, congregating around that tunnel, standing up and trying to get autographs. Grown adults trying to get autographs from these players. So like these kids couldn't watch all what warm-ups or the players coming through. That's another thing that bugs me. If you're an adult, you're a grown adult, don't congregate around and trying to beg for autographs from these players. Know the room and look up for the kids. Those kids couldn't see any of those players because you were trying to get an autograph, which you weren't going to get one because they were warming up for a game.
Absolutely. Autographs are for the kids, people. If you're an adult in there trying to snag an autograph, back up. I mean, for crying out loud, it's a guy writing his name on a piece of paper.
And they were probably going to sell it on
Fandom,
eBay, right? They're probably going to sell it on eBay.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's why a lot of players won't even pay attention to the adults.
Yep.
Football fandom IQ with El Capitano. We got to start a class, Dan.
And C-Bomb.
Thanks for taking my vent call. I got to get to work, Dano. You have a great day, my brother.
You too, buddy. There you go. There's C-Bomb hopping off here this morning if you're just joining us. Stadium etiquette, stadium do's or don'ts when you go to a game. Nick Sirianni, the coach for the Eagles, was upset with his fans for booing his team, and then he kind of trash talked to them afterwards after the Eagles won. He did apologize and such, but do you boo or don't you boo when you go to a game? Do you boo or don't you boo your team when you go to a game? What do you think? Yay or nay? Hit me up with the text 715-830-1912 on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line. We'll get back to some more texts on that coming up a little bit later on. Coming up in about 25 minutes, we will chat with RJ Cardinal, our Badger analyst from the Zone of Madison. We'll recap another blowout victory for the Badgers last week against Rutgers. Take a look at the game coming up this Saturday against Northwestern. We'll also throw some hoop stock in there. Also hockey, Badger hockey, men's and women's hockey. We'll hit that up too. So a lot of stuff going on in the Badger world. So RJ will be joining us here in just a little bit. It is also an ASAP Used Auto Parts Grind My Gears Tuesday. So what else is grinding your gears? Anything else? Hit me up. I want to hear from you. Send me a text 715-830-1912. Mark, our good buddy Mark with the text. Great call, C-Bomb. Texting in right there. Great call, C-Bomb. So, all right. Good to hear from you too, Mark. So, got a couple more. We got actually a couple Bucks texts coming in here. Saying this is from Eric. Agree with you on Middleton. He's going to have plenty of opportunities this year to be a scorer. The biggest question is going to be accountability. Can he be on the court? Can he be healthy? And is he going to take advantage of those opportunities? Excited for this Bucks team to surprise people this year. All right. It's got an optimistic approach there. Another texter, don't have a name, can't give you any credits, but saying Chris Middleton has definitely been a player that has irritated me throughout the years. Don't think he has been don't think he was the right number 2 for Giannis. I wonder if that held him back for a little bit. And then when they get a number 2 with Dame, he's hurt last year. Hopefully he can stay healthy and be a contributor to the team on the court this season. So another texter here is from John. John said the number 1 rule I taught my son when I took him to his first Brewers game is to be respectful to those around you. We'll say too, one of mine, I'll throw another one out there too. Don't be an idiot trash talker. I don't know how many times I've ran into this. Both sides. I've heard idiot Packer trash talkers, and I've heard idiot other fan talkers. I mean, it was a Minnesota playoff game against the Vikings, and there was these idiot Packers trash talkers saying how bad of a player Adrian Peterson was, and that was the year Adrian Peterson won MVP. So don't be an idiot trash talker. Okay, just don't. All right, and don't be that idiot know-it-all where you're just like constantly like the coach in the stands, constantly second guessing, constantly, well, I would have done it this way. The armchair quarterback, every single play, whether it was a good one or whether it was a bad one, there's those. Don't be the every single down or every single play armchair quarterback fan in the stands. We all don't want to hear that. Okay. Okay. Once in a while, if it was a questionable decision, yeah, sure. Why not? Go for it. Okay. But don't do it every single time. Don't do it every single time. So, all right. Keep those coming. 2 hours in already this morning. Quick break. We'll be back with more grind my gears, more stadium do's and don'ts, all that good stuff. We'll be back in just a few minutes after these news updates. Final hour kicking off right now on this Tuesday morning, a Grind My Gears Tuesday morning. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Appreciate the conversation that's going on. Whatever side of the aisle you're on this whole stadium do's and don'ts list. Bantering back and forth. I like it. Keep it going. All right. So we've got a couple more. Doug on Twitter saying, home game, be respectful to all guests in your town. Watch your language. Kids could be around, be loud, and celebrate your team's great plays. Janet also saying, how about enjoy the game? Remember, there's going to be a winner and a loser. Don't insult the players. Just because you buy a ticket doesn't give you free reign to throw things at players, referencing a baseball game I just watched. I think I know which baseball game you're talking about, too. Was it Padres Dodgers? Was it Padres Dodgers? I think I know which one you're talking about, too. Yeah, don't throw stuff. Don't be idiots and throw stuff out there. I never understood that. Like, why? That's just idiotic. Idiotic. What else do we got over here? Oh, I want to throw this question out there too. So going back, and I'm going to ask RJ this when we get to it. The Oregon and Ohio State game. So if you were watching the game, you probably maybe noticed towards the end, Oregon had 12 men on the field. And Dan Lanning, the head coach for Oregon, confirmed that Oregon put 12 men on the field on purpose late in the game. He said, they work on situational football for rare situations. Obviously something we had worked on, so you can see the result. Stop the clock. It worked. The whole drill. You guys, we don't need to revisit and such. But the reason I bring this up is that good coaching? Or is that, because I've seen some people on social media saying too, is that cheating? Is that good coaching? Or is that cheating? Because I've seen it both ways. How do you see that? The whole 12 men situation that Oregon did, purposely putting 12 men on the field. And it caused actually, so just to kind of a refresher in case you don't know what we're talking about here. But Oregon took the lead with 1 minute 47 seconds left. And just before, so it was at Ohio State was facing a 3rd and 25. 3rd and 25. It was on Oregon's side of the field. Ducks called a timeout with 10 seconds left. Just before the ball snap, an Oregon defensive back walked on the field, giving Oregon an extra defender. Ohio State failed to complete a pass against Oregon's 12-man defense on the next play, and the Ducks were flagged for an illegal substitution penalty. Ohio State gained 5 yards on the penalty, but lost 4 seconds off the clock, since that penalty is deemed a live ball foul. So they gave up 5 yards instead of maybe potentially giving up more yards, but also drained precious time off the clock. Good coaching? Or do you not like those types of situations? Good coaching or not really? So, all right. Keep those coming. All right. Hit me up with a text, 715-830-1912. I'm going to talk with RJ. I'm going to ask RJ that. RJ, if you're listening, I'm going to ask you that. Your thoughts on that. So, a couple more Bucks texts coming up here right now. We got this is from Jim. Jim is saying, I'm not the biggest Chris Middleton fan, but I realize that he is an integral part to this team. I'm hoping that he can stay healthy and provide double-digit scoring for the Bucks. I agree. I don't think 20 points per game is realistic, but I would accept about 16, 17 points per game. We got another texter here about the Bucks. I'm actually kind of surprised with some of the Bucks talk here this morning. But another texter here saying, I've been one of the very few people who have liked Chris Middleton over his career. I feel like he's gotten unnecessary criticism. I hope he can just stay healthy and get over his ankle issues. A lot of those injuries have been just unlucky issues and not necessarily his reason or his problems. But I hope he can stay healthy and be a contributor within this offense because the Bucks need him, and he should have chances with everybody focusing on Damian and Giannis this year. So, okay. All right. So we'll get back to some more of those texts coming up a little bit later on. I want to talk some Badgers with RJ here in just a little bit. Badger fans, let me ask you this as we get set for RJ here. I kind of threw it out yesterday, but curious to get your thoughts here. Where's your has your how do I want to phrase this? From what we have seen in the last couple of weeks, these blowout victories, and I get it, it's Purdue. It was a little bit better of a game against Rutgers. I mean, in terms of the quality of the opponent and such. Is your mindset starting to change for the rest of this Badger season? All right, because, after that game and, it was 42-7 against Rutgers, it's 2 weeks in a row. You're putting up a bunch of points and putting up a bunch of yards. Saw some people on the socials kind of saying, oh, you guys are going to suck me back into this, aren't you? Badgers are going to suck me back into this. They're going to get me back on the bandwagon here. Don't do it and set me up for disappointment. Are you starting to get back on there? Or are you kind of maybe waiting for that Penn State game to see where they're at? Let's say they do it again against Northwestern. Let's say the Badgers go out there and win by a similar margin against Northwestern like they did against Rutgers and such. Okay. Then you got Penn State coming to Wisconsin. How geeked up are you getting for that game? How excited are you getting for that game? Do you think you got a shot at taking down the Nittany Lions at Camp Rando, given what we've seen the last couple of weeks? It's interesting because let's say if Wisconsin beats Northwestern by a similar margin against like they did against Rutgers and such. You got Penn State coming to town. Then you go to Iowa. Then after that, Oregon comes over. That's 2 top 3 teams in the country. 2 of the top 3 teams in the country coming to your house. Those would be big-time wins if you can get at least one of them. Good Lord, can you imagine if somehow they got both of those? Ooh, Nelly. But I think there's a little bit of a tide. I don't think it's fully switched over to all Badgers, fully on board. Let's do this thing, making a late push, big-time bowl games, that sort of stuff. I think it's trending. I mean, the arrow was going down, and it was going down fast, and it was plummeting. But these last couple of weeks maybe has stalled that and maybe kind of just getting back over to some more positivity to this situation. You know what I mean? So, all right. What are your thoughts? We have, I don't even want to try to attempt this. I'll just say Yankee Bombers 27, Bandoli's Brock Bombers 27. Twitter account. Heard you asking how people felt on the Oregon's coach having 12 men on the field. It's a penalty, yes, but is it any different than holding or offsides? All are penalties, and I'm a Badger fan. It's a penalty, but my question is, do you think that's good coaching on his part to know that situation, to do it that way? Or does it, for some people that I was reading some of the comments on social media, that's not the right way to go about it? That's not how to do it. How would you describe that? Or what's your opinion on that? A couple more texts to get to here. Going back to our Packers conversation, I missed a couple of these a little bit earlier, but we were talking a little green and gold in the first hour. We have Dave saying Sunday's game was definitely Rashawn Gary's best game so far this season. No, he didn't show up in the stat books, but anybody who watched him saw 52 flying across the field and putting some consistent pressure and making some good plays all across the line of scrimmage. Another texture, Matt saying, if we did a poll on who has been the most disappointing player for the Packers so far, who do you think would be number one? Mine would be easy. It's 97. Kenny Clark has been non-existent this year. For a guy who got a new contract this year right before the season, it's incredibly disappointing to see his play so far. I was one of those who thought he would be a better fit for this style of defense, but I've been very, very disappointed in his play. Just don't know if it's the style or a style of coaching and what the coaches are asking him to do, or if it's Kenny's play. All right. Tell you what, let's take a quick break and we'll have RJ on. Plenty of Badger chat to get to. We're going to talk some Badger football. We're going to talk some Badger hockey, men's and women's. And we'll throw a little hoops talk in there too with Bo Ryan getting officially inducted into the Naismith Hall of Fame. If you missed that speech, we had it up on our socials and such, but lots of Badger chat coming up after these quick words.
Go to abcmouse.com/radio to claim your free month. That's abcmouse.com/radio, abcmouse.com/radio. Sponsored by Age of Learning.
It's fall in Wisconsin, which means we've got hunting season going on right now. And if you're a deer hunter, you may be wondering, well, what do I do or where do I take my deer in to get it processed? Hey, don't stress yourself out. Mike's Star Market is the premier place in the Chippewa Valley for your deer processing needs. Just visit Mike's Star Market at 2238 Heimstead Road and learn more about their deer process, or check out their Facebook page to see their pricing and options of different meats to get made. Deer hunting is a long-standing tradition here in Wisconsin, and with Mike's Star Market, they understand that tradition.
When it comes to accurate, reliable election information for Wisconsin voters, visit the official site. It's myvote.wi.gov. It's the big cheese, you could say. It's your one-stop source for official Wisconsin election information. Find your polling place, see your sample ballot, make sure your registration is up to date, and more at myvote.wi.gov. Sponsored by Wisconsin Elections Commission, aired by Wisconsin Broadcasters Association and this station.
He serves up a whole lot of sports with a whole lot of opinion, which means you've got a whole lot of listening to do. The Dan Casper Show, weekday mornings from 6 to 9.
Tailgate this tailgating season with Hy-Vee. Whether you need some food or snacks for your tailgate party, like some Dan Good burgers, or some beverages like some Man Cave Light, Hy-Vee is your place to go. Or maybe you need some swag to represent your favorite team down, well, from high school to the college and pro level. Hy-Vee in Eau Claire has the team shop over there where you can outfit yourself so you can properly represent your team. Tailgate this season with Hy-Vee. Time to catch up with our good buddy, Mr. R.J. Cardinal. Lots to catch up on in the Badger world. But first, I want to ask you this, R.J. First of all, good morning, R.J.
Good morning.
I want to ask your thoughts on, so Ohio State, Oregon. I was kind of taking an informal poll with our listeners. Do you think it's good coaching from Oregon putting the 12 men on the field on purpose to kind of drain some of the clock there? Or are you on the side of like, no, that's not the right way to go about it?
It's one of those, there's a loophole in there. It's not against the rules technically.
Nope. Did we lose you, RJ? I think we lost you, RJ. We'll see if we can get RJ back over here in a little bit. So, but let me try to get him in here again. So, but hopefully we'll get RJ back on here a little bit. What are your thoughts though, peeps? All right, hit me up with the text 715-830-1912 there. What are your thoughts on Oregon putting the 12 men on the field to kind of drain some of the clock there? Because it's a live ball fall. Good coaching or not the way you would go about it. So while we wait for RJ, let's get back to a few more messages here. So we were asking too about stadium do's and don'ts. Stadium do's and don'ts. What are some of your bugaboos? What is some of your stadium etiquette? On Facebook, John says number one rule should be respectful to others around you. Dan says don't punch people. Well, I'm hoping nobody's punching people. It happens. It happens though. Andrew says be polite, cheer loud, and pick up your trash on the way out. Trevor says make sure opposing fans don't feel welcome. I think we got another one here too. Rocky says don't get drunk and obnoxious. Don't get drunk and obnoxious. So, all right, keep those coming too, whether it is on Facebook or just hit me up with a text or on social media too. We've had a few people over there. So John says it's good coaching in Oregon. Got to do anything to get competitive advantage, right? Ohio State had the opportunity. If Ohio State had the opportunity, they would have done the same thing, same as Wisconsin. They would have done the same thing. You do and try anything to win. You hear a lot about that with, we heard a lot about that with Bill Belichick kind of doing the he would always look at different areas and try to find those loopholes and try to find ways to. And I know Belichick maybe not the best example of everything out there because of cheating stuff, and some people kind of knock him down for that. But he was kind of known for trying to find those different loopholes and such too. Let's see if we can get RJ back on. RJ, you there?
Yes, sir.
Oh,
Not sure what happened there.
nah, me either. So let's go back to it. The Ohio State one. What are your thoughts on that? Good coaching or not really?
Yeah, like I was saying, there's a loophole there where it's 12 men on the field, whether you purposely do it or not. A play runs, you run the clock off. That took 7 seconds off the clock. So even then, had Howard slid, there would have been 5 seconds left to take a timeout. But yeah, I mean, it's a penalty, I think, in terms of if you send somebody on right before a snap, it's might be moving forward unsportsmanlike and a 15-yard penalty rather than just a 5-yard penalty and a replay of down. So I'm guessing next year we'll see a rule change in that, closing the loophole and making the penalty a little worse than there is. Even if it's an accidental one, it'll all be grouped as one, and it'll probably be a little heavier of a penalty for having 12 men on the field. But as of right now, perfectly legal. It's much like, when Wisconsin last year scored against Illinois and Brett Bielema cried about it.
Yeah.
Even though he's the guy who, before kickoffs, when they tried to do running the clock in kickoffs, he would purposely go off sides to run the clock and keep re-kicking until halftime. And they changed that to go back to no clock running until until somebody touches the ball. So, I mean, there's a whole bunch of loopholes in rules all over the place. And this is just another one where if it's there, might as well do it. So who knows if we'll see some more people do it in crunch time positions, all depending on what a score is going in the fourth quarter.
Right. All right, RJ. Wisconsin, Rutgers. Wisconsin again, dominating performance, 42-7. Was this the most complete game in the Luke Fickell era, in your opinion?
I mean, it looked about it. These last 2 weeks, similar results. You had 52-6, 42-7. I had a coworker who was expecting 32-8 now this coming week. So it was great to see. I mean, there was a little lull there after scoring on the first 2 drives in the offense, but I think we saw Rutgers make some adjustments and have some good plays in there. I mean, there was the play lock through into triple coverage. I think that was probably a mistake ultimately. But I mean, he was feeling it and just trying to make stuff happen. And I mean, if we're going to get an interception a game, hopefully you get more than 1 touchdown. But Tyree Walker again had a 3 touchdown day. He's up to 9 touchdowns on the year. Braden Locke's up to 900 yards passing now on the year. His completion percentage is over 50% after going 64 against Purdue and 71% against Rutgers. And I mean, Rutgers had been playing well leading up to this game. I know they had some injuries that are mounting up, but once again, it's encouraging to see dominating perceived weaker opponents, even if you were a 2.5-point underdog. I don't think I couldn't consider that an upset because it's still Rutgers, even if you're favored by 2.5. I mean, usually the rule of thumb is the home team gets 3 points no matter what. So, I mean, you were technically given a 0.5 point. And I mean, it could be more of a pick 'em, or even think of it, Wisconsin being favored by half. But is what it is. And we saw another great performance by the Wisconsin offense. Wisconsin defense held Rutgers scoreless until the fourth quarter. up until the fourth quarter, Ethan Kalagmanis was your leading rusher. And I mean, if that's how you're going to do it against a team that was, I mean, rushing around, I think 200 yards a game, you'll take that when you held them to 168, and it was more of accumulation of rushers rather than Kyle Monengai going off on you, and you held him to roughly half of what his season average is, and kind of kept him pedestrian up until the fourth quarter when he gained most of his yards and got that touchdown. Kalagmanis on just over 100 yards passing, so the defense really did step it up in a scheme we haven't seen be really great against multifaceted teams. And I think it also helped that Rutgers, like in the second half, was just dropping every ball that was in their direction. But yeah, I mean, you take the games that are put in front of you, and especially in Big Ten play, if you can have these two kind of results where it's what we saw in the first half of USC, and now that USC loss is kind of looking pretty bad.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things. You like what you see. And I mean, I was critical those first four games where you couldn't put away a group of 5 team, and you couldn't put away an FCS team. You got completely outclassed by Alabama. You really pooped the bed in the second half against USC. And I think we saw the coaching staff finally decide we're paring down the running backs and we're opting for Walker. Who knows if that's actually what the decision was, and Malusi decided to leave because of it, or if until we hear from him, it's going to be all speculation. And then it appears with some injuries due to the receiving core. A lot of people have said it's really thin now at receiver, but I mean, just because 3 guys are out, it's one of the deeper position groups on the offense. And we're seeing Vinny Anthony becoming a true deep threat. He was a state track champion in Kentucky, and that speed's really showing here. We're seeing Trechke Kahuna, when he touches the ball, he turns little 5-yard routes into first downs and a little longer. Not saying it's a blessing that, I mean, we have these guys. It is. And when you have the other guys who were perceived your deep threats and your possession receiver go down, it's good to see another deep threat and a possession receiver who can step up and really take their place and sometimes even look better than them. Yeah, and then you got CJ Williams, who all of his catches so far have been for first downs. I mean, just keep giving that guy the ball too.
Right. No kidding.
So it's really one of those, when you have Bryson Green and Will Pauling healthy, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to just start trotting out as many receivers as you can while you're paring down your running back room to where I think you can have Walker, Dupree, and Cade Giacomelli, who, I mean, I still think he needs more touches. And I mean, we heard the press conference from Fickle where he goes, he knows his role and he goes out there, he doesn't complain and all that. And I mean, he averaged 18 yards a carry against Rutgers. Now it was the fourth quarter, and I mean, still, 18 yards a carry, you're not supposed to get that even in the fourth quarter. I think he really should get the ball more and be in that rotation right away. I think it's one of those, he can go between the tackles. I'm not sure Darian Dupree can right now. It seems that's where he's getting a little slowed up when we see him try to run between the tackles. But both he and Tyree Walker, Tyree seems to be a complete back where he can run between the tackles. If it's not there, we now have seen him a couple weeks in a row bounce to the outside and be able to create something when the hole's not there. And when the hole's there, I mean, he's running for 30, 40 yards and scoring touchdowns. So it was just good to see this offense where it's at, and the offensive line is now clicking, even if it's lesser opponents. And I mean, you can't really fault that because even against those first 2 weeks, they didn't look like they are looking like right now.
So with what you've seen these last 2 weeks, and we've got Northwestern coming up, hopefully not looking too far ahead and looking at Penn State here, where's that kind of arrow for you? I've seen some people on social say, don't make me fall back in love with you guys. Don't make me, I don't want to be set up for disappointment or anything like that. But where's that arrow kind of trending for you right now with this Badger team?
Right now, that arrow for me is putting us where we were pre-COVID. It just shellacking the teams you're supposed to, and hopefully moving forward having better games against teams with better talent. Or at least looking competent against teams with better talent. And granted, people didn't like that, but I mean, it's a lot better than going 7-6.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You beat the Rutgers, you beat the Purdues, you beat the Northwesterns, you go and have a rock fight with Iowa and have 1-score games against them. You have Penn State in here and play them tough. Hopefully you eke out the win there, or at least don't get embarrassed at home. It's like looking back and just thinking of the teams we have seen in the past where everybody's just like, oh, we just can't get over the hump. If that's the case, you're going to have a team that wins 8, 9, 10 games a year, depending on your schedule and who's on that schedule that, it's like, well, we can just mark that one up as a loss before the season even starts. And it's amazing what 2 weeks can do, but those 2 weeks of scoring 94 points total and holding your opponents to 13 really changes a lot. And it's made, especially in-game kind of things, took a lot away from Rutgers. And then in the second half, they resorted to just dinking and dunking and gaining yards, and really weren't taking shots down the field, but Wisconsin was still protecting from the big play and allowing those yards to come. And I mean, if that's what you got to do to win, that's what you got to do to win. But really looking like a team who's got more wins on their schedule based on, the box scores and just looking at stats on paper.
Do you feel better about their bowl chances this year now?
If we get a win versus Northwestern, I'll feel a lot better because then you only need one more win.
Mm-hmm.
It's looking a lot more attainable than it was after Alabama and USC when it looked like the sky was falling.
Mm-hmm. So with this Northwestern game, what's the biggest challenge that they're gonna present to Wisconsin this Saturday?
And in general, it's always a cold, gray day whenever we play in Evanston. no matter where you are, but it's always been at Ryan Field, and now you're not playing there. I don't believe it's a grass field. I think it's turf, whereas Northwestern, depending on the teams they played, normally kept their grass long to slow teams down and help them to their advantage. But, I mean, you're about to play in the stadium that's the hottest ticket in college football right now due to its short time use and only having 12,023 for a capacity. It'll be interesting to see what, the lake effect does with the winds there. It'll be interesting to see, the kind of game we see. Because, I mean, Northwestern's really only averaging just under 22 points a game while giving up 19. And some of that is based more on their Big Ten games they've played so far, where they're 1-2. They've lost to Washington and Indiana and beat Maryland last weekend, where they were up 17-10 heading into the fourth quarter, or 17-7. Don't remember which one, but then they scored 20 points in the fourth quarter. A lot of times they ended up having a short field, so their stats don't reflect having 37 points. But when you have a short field, your offensive numbers aren't going to look the greatest. And their defense had a scoop and score from the Maryland 2. So, the defense added some points in there as well. But yeah, it's looking like a game where it should be another team that I think we should be able to see another result like we saw these past 2 weeks. And I mean, that's really tough to say when you're looking at the history of playing. I mean, in Evanston, since Barry Alvarez took over, Wisconsin's 5-9. So it's not been the kindest place to Wisconsin over the years, and even going back further in time, it's not one of the better cities Wisconsin travels to. But like I said, that's also been at Ryan Field this whole time. So we'll see what happens playing at a new venue, which somebody asked Luke Fickell about it, and he said, I don't care. Based on what happened to us last year, we can't talk about anything being somewhere. So, yeah, it's one of those. I think, go out with a game plan that we've seen these past couple of weeks where the run and pass are looking amazing, and your defense has been stepping up.
Yeah, no doubt. Before I get to your prediction, just a couple other things. Bo Ryan officially getting into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. We got to see his presentation this past weekend and his acceptance speech. I think a lot of us would say long overdue and such here for Bo Ryan. But did you have a chance to listen to his speech?
I did. Yeah. I mean,
typical Bo Ryan, wasn't it?
Right. It was just a classy response from a guy who is, a great coach on all levels. D3 national championship, pretty much won wherever he was at as he was moving through the head coaching ranks. And it is about time where, I mean, it could have happened 10 years ago. And for whatever reason or not, he was always a finalist a few times, and they just kept saying no to him. And finally, we know he got through this year, and it's just a good recognition for a coach who just continued on what Dick Bennett started in turning Wisconsin basketball around.
I don't know if I'm reading into this too much, but I thought it was really cool and kind of interesting too. His presenters were Roy Williams, and I know Jim Calhoun was supposed to be there too, but health-wise, he wasn't able to physically be there. But those are two programs, North Carolina and Kansas for Roy Williams, and then UConn for Calhoun. Teams that won championships, kind of looked at as blue blood programs. To see those coaches kind of be willing and there to support Bo Ryan, who did things a little bit differently, but what he meant to that program, I thought it was kind of interesting, kind of cool to see those kind of three programs, like Wisconsin was involved with those three programs. Again, I don't know if I'm kind of overlooking or kind of overreacting to that a little bit. I just thought it was cool to see the respect that Bo Ryan had from those top tier coaches who have won multiple national championships at the D1 level.
Yeah, and Bo Ryan, having been on the rules committee for college basketball, I believe, for a number of years, and those two were as well. So I'm guessing they got to know each other quite well, not really knowing all the facts there. And after Roy's comments of Badger basketball under Dick Bennett, he was probably even happy to see the Bennett ball go away from Wisconsin. So he was probably very open to Bo Ryan, even though some people would say it's the same offense. We've had that argument before. But, I mean, when you have coaches like that who vocally and internally respect somebody like Bo Ryan, it's nice to have that kind of status in your corner.
Mm-hmm. Hockey, really quick. I know the Badger men's season got they split between them and was it Lindenwood?
Yeah.
Lindenwood over there.
Yep. Yeah, I went to the Saturday night game where they were down 2-0, came back and won 3-2 in overtime. Took some like miracle goals for that to happen. Right now, I know there's a lot of turnover with some players who left via the transfer portal that were some highly ranked NHL prospects for whatever reason, even though you had success here. If it was NIL, if it was rumors that, there's NHL teams and scouts who don't like Mike Hastings' system, so they told players to leave, whichever kind of rumor you want to believe. But yeah, it was pretty sloppy play over the weekend. So hopefully that gets tightened up. We have seen them be able to come back. In their exhibition against Omaha, they were down and won in overtime. They got themselves down in Friday night's game and couldn't claw back. They were down 2 and scored 3 unanswered goals to win the game on Saturday. But dropped from 9th to 16th in the polls. And just hopefully you get things looking right, and we don't have an up and down season this year.
And then the women's team, they got Minnesota coming up this weekend, so an early test going up against the Gophers.
Yeah, 6-0 right now. Swept number 3 Duluth. With that, they dropped in the polls to 5th. Minnesota moved up to number 3, so back-to-back weeks of playing the number 3 team in the nation. They're traveling up to Minneapolis Friday and Saturday for their series. So, outscoring teams 46-6 right now, and with 2 shutouts, and they beat Duluth 7-3 on Sunday, I think it was. So, that's one of those where they're just, utterly dominating right now, and I really feel now with that opening press conference where they basically said it's like there's no other focus here. It's a national championship, and I think we have how do you say it politely without with being kind of politically correct? Seems like it's a team of killers right now who are out for blood.
Yeah,
and I it'll be interesting because you play Ohio State in Columbus, middle of November. Hopefully, it's just not geared towards them right now, and it doesn't look like it is. But I think Wisconsin appears to be in a class all by themselves. They got all 20 first place votes by the USOC, USOCH polls. So, they got all the possible points there, and they're just looking like world beaters right now.
Mm-hmm. All right, prediction time, RJ. What do you got for Wisconsin taking on Northwestern?
It's kind of hard to judge right now. Northwestern giving up or scoring almost 22 points a game. Wisconsin in the past 2 conference games has you're averaging 46 points a game right now. Gotta like what you see there. Indiana put up 41 on these guys. Washington put up 24. I think Duke put up 27 on them. So the lesser teams, when they play them, are bringing that average down. I kind of like what I'm seeing out of Wisconsin offensively right now. The way Tywee's running, the way the ball's getting spread around to the receivers. You got to think Wisconsin is able to put up points again. But to where it's 40, I don't know. I'll say 38-10 Wisconsin. Hopefully the change of venue from Ryan Field exercises some demons there this weekend.
All right, I like it. He's RJ Cardinal, our Badger analyst. Dude, we appreciate the time as always. enjoy the week, and hopefully we're talking about another blowout win next week, man.
Yeah. We'll be having some good conversations next week.
Absolutely.
Men's hockey is welcoming Ohio State into the Kohl Center this weekend.
Ooh,
so,
yeah.
we got that going on.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
All right, good stuff, buddy. We'll catch up soon, okay?
So,
there you go. RJ Cardinal joining us here this morning. We got to take a quick break, and we're going to wrap things up here. We got some picks and predicts coming at you. We got a baseball game tonight to pick, so we'll hit that up too. All right, final break. Then we'll be back after these quick words. Wrapping things up with some picks and predicts brought to you by our good friends from the Elbow Room, located in Eau Claire next to the Banbury Place. Don't forget Wednesday's trivia is over there, so get that on your schedule. Or if you're looking for somewhere to catch some of these games, watch some of these games with some good company, you can head on over to the Elbow Room. Now that week 6 is in the books for the pro football season, quick look at the leaderboard for our Pro Football Weekly Pick'em Challenge. Myself up there, 62 correct picks. Then we've got a few of you tied for second. Jolene, Peter, Brandon, Garrett, all tied at second place. B, Tom, the Bomb, James, and Tim tied for third. Harley and Steve look like they're in fourth. So get your picks in now by visiting sportstalk1051.com and clicking on that Fan Cave tab. Baseball, we had last night the Mets evening up that series, 1 apiece. We had the Yankees picking up a victory last night in game 1 of their series against the Guardians. We've got one game tonight. Guardians taking on the Yankees. You know what? I'll go with the Guardians to even it up today. I'll go with the Guardians. Why not? That's what I'll roll with. So just doing the one game here today because, well, we got WNBA Finals picking back up tomorrow, which Game 3, that series is tied at 1 apiece too. So we'll make those picks as part of our picks and predicts for tomorrow. But all right, I only got about a minute and a half left here anyway. So a big thanks to everybody who texted, commented in your stadium etiquettes, your do's and your don'ts all across the board. Some agreed, some disagreed, but a big thanks for everybody who sent those on in. We might have to do that a little bit more. Keep sending those on in. You can do that on the Facebook page or on Twitter over there too. So tomorrow we've got it's an adjustment Wednesday, making the adjustments, right? Halftime adjustments. We're halfway through the week, so we'll hit that up. Packers will be back at practice tomorrow to get sets for their game going up against the Texans of Houston. And then a week from tomorrow, it will be the tip-off to the Milwaukee Bucks season. So start to get a little bit more Bucks chat in there too. So also big thanks to all of you who texted in about when we were talking a little bit about Chris Middleton a little bit earlier in the Bucks team. So appreciate that. Keep that coming on over there. All right. We'll have that. I'm sure that'll be a topic throughout the entire season, Chris Middleton and this Bucks team. I really don't know what to expect from this Bucks team. I'll be honest with you. I don't. I mean, they better be a playoff team. I a little bit unknown right now for me. So, but we'll have plenty of time to kind of hit that up and talk about it throughout the season. But definitely with the season starting off next week, tipping off next week, we'll do some picks and expectations and all that good stuff there too. So we chat Matt LaFleur, still kind of doubling down on Narveson being the kicker. Probably it sure feels like this is gonna roll here. I guess they're gonna live on that sword, but here's the thing: we want Narveson to succeed, right? We want him to succeed. We want him to kick better. We want him to make field goals. But I think the last thing we want to see, and the Packers want to see too, is a game decided by field goals, which hopefully we won't get into that situation. All right. DP and Dennis are up next. Have yourself a fantastic rest of your Tuesday. We'll be back at it again tomorrow morning, just past 6 a.m. We'll chat with you then.